Oh, hi, Rachel. Okay, we're gonna bring my co-host up here, which is Tracy. Hey, Tracy.
Hi. How
Oh
are
my gosh,
you?
I am literally sweating in my house because for some reason the air conditioning does not want to cooperate. So we are. We're. It's gonna be a sweaty hour.
It's so
Hey,
hot over there.
oh, thank you. Thank you. And I have my glasses too. I'm like, I need to, because I need to see you. But welcome everyone. This is the Love and Healing Show, and I'm here with love coach Tracy LaFleur. I'm celebrity matchmaker and relationship expert Carmelia Ray. And I'm so glad to be back on Fireside. You can expect more of us and more guests to be here as we talk about today's topic: how to heal and love yourself after a toxic partnership. And Tracy, unfortunately, we are experts in this topic.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce our friends to who you are?
Hi, I'm Tracy LaFleur. I am a love and relationship coach. And yes, I have landed in this position after being in so many failed and toxic relationships. And my coaching has just evolved as I evolve. And I ended a 9-year narcissist like level 10 relationship and went on a deep, deep, deep healing journey with that. And so here I am to share all that I've learned and all in just healing, coming back to love. Also, my message that we could find love again. I feel like a lot of us just want to give up. But as Carmelia knows, and she's out there helping you find, there are good ones out there. We just have to remember that we do deserve to have that love.
Absolutely. We really want this show to be there as interactive as possible. So if you are in the audience right now and there is somebody that you know that could benefit from this conversation, it is being live streamed right now on multiple channels. But while you're here, please share that link, share it with your friends, share it with somebody that you know could benefit from this conversation. And if you're here to support us, hey, Stephanie's in the house. I just want to acknowledge Devin, Woody, Rachel. Thank you for being here. Um, I'll start with my first experience at a toxic romantic partnership. And I ran away from home when I was 17. And it's hard to believe because I'm a mom of three. My eldest daughter is will be 24. My son is turning 18, and I have a 6-year-old. And I remember, like, my son right now, he's in his room, he's 17. Like, that's the age that I was when I chose to run away from home. And I ran away from home because I'm Filipino Canadian. My dad was super, super strict. I would even say that my relationship with my father was very toxic. And I say that because his parenting style was that of, immigrant dad. He yelled a lot. He was very strict. I felt I really had no freedom, no say, all of those things. And we've gotten to know each other a lot, Tracy, but I don't like to be told what to do. Okay. And when you tell me things and in a demanding way, and in a way when like there was a real challenge for me to have a confident father and a successful parents, but to not want me to have that independence. Anyway, when I ran away, what ended up happening? My first relationship was with a boy, and I say boy because he wasn't a man, and really we're the same age. So he's 17 or 18 with a massive ego. And I remember this so vividly. We were walking down the street, and next thing you know, I didn't know that what a punch was. I didn't even know what that felt like. But I felt this punch across my face, and I like I was hit. I've been hit before as a child for discipline, but I've never been struck by a man in public. And I remember holding my face and just being in complete shock and looking and said, what was that for? And he probably, I'm going to keep this PG. and not use profanity, but probably said the F word, called me a B, a this and that, because across the street, I had no idea. I must have been just walking happily in that direction, was another man or guy, and he thought I was looking at this person. I don't even know what he was talking about. And I was just in such shock. So, needless to say, this relationship continued. But at that point, I was in love and I ran away. And I lived with him in his parents' house. He had the car. So I didn't know. I mean, I'd love to hear from you about your experience, but let's just say that that was a very toxic relationship. And I put up with a guy who I was in love with, because all of my worth and my value was dependent on what he thought of me, right? And and so everything that I've learned as an adult, as a woman who's had a lot of experience as a matchmaker, as a relationship expert, has shown me that everything was classically narcissistic, and that I didn't even know that I was a victim, and didn't know that I was just I was accepting this low behavior. And I remember telling you this story, Tracy, but by the time I would call my sister-in-law, so I'd have these people that I would call after I got in trouble. Really, I was like beat or something, or belittled. And I'm like, I'm ready to go. He's horrible to me. And then by the time they got to the door, I was like, it's okay. Go, 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 go. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right. And it would be so impactful to them. But I ended up leaving that relationship, but it wasn't without a lot of difficulty. And I tried to take my life because I found him cheating. Of course, that's what's going to happen. He was cheating and he was rejecting, because I never had any intention whatsoever to look at other people. In fact, it became where I was used to looking at the floor or not looking anywhere, or making damn sure that I was not in any peripheral vision of any other male. And it is so not me today. Like, I'm so committed that young girls, that women, and I have raised and am raising beautiful girls. My daughter's a queen. She has, I learned so much from that relationship that I made sure I broke that generational pattern for accepting that kind of behavior. I'm going to go on mute because I'm going to choke to death. So, Tracy, you tell me, what was it that I was going through as this 17-year-old, 19-year-old kid?
Well, first, thank you for sharing. I could relate to that story too, with my first boyfriend that started when I was 17. Also a narcissist, not physically abusive, emotionally abusive. He cheated on me so many times, but he would so I don't even know if it was cheating. He would tell me that he was going to do it. Specifically, there was these couple girls, one was a neighbor, a thing where it'd been oh, I've been trying for years. She's in from college. He would literally tell me, essentially, and I'll keep it PG, but lack of better words, I'm going to bang her, whatever. And I would sit there and be like, what? That's your plans for Friday night. And I would sit there knowing what was happening, and I would wait for him to call me. I mean, it's funny I can say this out loud now and laugh. It was a shame I held for so long. I had to do a lot of work to be able to laugh about this, because internally I would sit there what? Did you really do that? How pathetic, every word I could call myself. And, just like you, I'm sure you went back and thought, how can I sit there and let this man do this? I also cried wolf so many times to my sister, to friends, I have to get away from this. I'm done with it, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm defending him. And it's well, the thing I always used to say is, he's not really my boyfriend. We were together for 3 years. We were together every single day. But he was let's not have labels, even though we're fully boyfriend and girlfriend. So it could kind of excuse him. So suddenly people would be oh, so you just let him this and do that? And I'd be well, we're not really together. But I mean, come on.
Now you start. I know that phase. I don't you start hiding. You're embarrassed. You're ashamed. I'm never seeing him again. And then you're posting, we didn't have social media back then. Thank God we didn't have social media back then, because, oh my gosh. Then I would just look like a fool. And this was before I even entered the matchmaking industry. And just for context, I got my first job as a telemarketer in 1992 to a matchmaking agency called Together. But at that time, I was 21 and I had left that toxic partnership because he cheated and I attempted to commit suicide. Thank God I didn't. Hospitalized, went back home, never fixed my relationship with my father until much later. But I never did enter another physically abusive relationship because at least I had learned that lesson.
Right.
But I certainly have accepted low vibrating relationships, yelling. And remember you were saying that my dad was a yeller too. And you said that I'm never dating a guy who yells at me or whatever. And you end up married to one.
Yeah, like I told you the other day, not only did I marry basically my dad, they even have the same name. They are both a Michael. I'm like, hello.
Dated my dad.
Sorry, no Michaels, no more Michaels. But so how we've been talking about this topic a lot, Carmen and I, a couple different platforms in the last week. It all stems from my phrase I love to use is we accept the love that we think we deserve. And that is also where the shame comes in. Because both of us now, again, we've grown so much and we know who we are now so we can laugh about it. But in those moments, could you imagine looking at yourself in the mirror then and going, I'm accepting this. I think I deserve this. We're blaming them and we're trying to find a reason and then we're excusing them. But in the moment, unfortunately, our self-esteem, the love for ourselves is so low that we think that we deserve that because like you said, we're getting something out of it. That's another part that it's hard for us to sort of come to terms with. We are getting something out of it. And other people might be like, you're getting something out of somebody beating you. And it's yes, because I'm sure in the in-between time, he was validating you in a way that was something that you were craving. And that is the problem. All of us have childhood trauma. Either remember it because it was really big, or you don't remember because it was even bigger and we blacked it out. Or some of us have little traumas that we don't realize that really affect us the way that they do. And then we start to replay these relationships with the partner. Now that I am a coach and I've gone through so much schooling and healing on my own, I could tell you all, even though this might sound crazy, you actually come into partnership on purpose to get triggered because it's an opportunity for you to learn about yourself and work together. But you have to have a partner that's willing with you to work on it. And a lot of times we find that ourselves in a situation with a partner who's not conscious and not willing. And then, that's when you get to notice what's happening and then it's time to move on. But it all is this cycle and you only move out of it with, I think the very first key always is awareness. Like, oh my gosh, wait, what's happening to me? This isn't right. Oh, this is a pattern. It's
yes.
Whatever the case.
So, we started with really in this show to share where we've come from. And so we have experienced these relationships and we're not even going to, maybe we'll talk about narcissism and all those different things, but we've experienced it. And from a coach's perspective, we're also coaching people through it actively. And I've coached thousands and thousands of people throughout my career as a matchmaker. So I want to move on to how do you heal? So how do you heal and how do you love yourself? So maybe we could lead each of us with a tip that we would advise and a tip that we've taken ourselves. And I'll start with the first tip. So for me, especially when you want to end a toxic partnership, and I'll tell you this, I have gotten into the longest breakups of my life. Why? Because I needed closure. I needed just that one more, but why this? Why this? Guess what? When you're in a toxic partnership and you participated in it as well, there's something about whether the partner was toxic and you're toxic, because I can share that this toxicity didn't happen by itself. I heard this recently, and I don't know if it was you, Tracy, that says you can't clap with one hand, right? It takes two people. Was that you?
No,
it was you. Okay. Was it you? Okay, you can't clap with, was it you? And I'm like, yeah, you can't, because you don't make any noise, right? You just look weird. It takes two to participate in that toxicity. And even in a recent scenario where I wanted closure in a relationship, and it could be a friendship, it could be a business partner, it could be a friend, it could be even a child and an argument, and you you keep going back to it, going back to it. That's part of the toxicity. I would say that don't expect closure. You can get closure for yourself. You can be at peace with the fact that the relationship did not work out. It doesn't matter. You are like, does it really matter in the end if you've made the choice that it's over? I think when I really think about it, when you're in it, you want those answers. You want those answers, and you will be detective about it, and almost like embarrassingly stalkerish about it. If when I want something, I almost have to like, okay, where's my phone? Throw it in the garbage. Where are my hands? Tie them behind my back. Where are my legs? Strap them to the friggin' bed, because this is, especially when you're super passionate and you care. So that's my tip, is like, don't expect closure. You can get closure within yourself. And I think, Tracy, you help a lot with that, with the meditation and just the mantras and being at peace with, you're not going to get those answers. Imagine, particularly in the case of suicide or in the case of a sudden death or a sudden loss. I lost a baby at birth, my second child in 2013, full term, supposed to have him on my birthday. I have closure with that scenario. And that's also something that probably like I deal with in my healing and things that come up as loss. But I'm just sharing that example because I had to create my own closure. I can't speak to anybody about that. But in the terms of a relationship, the more you seek that closure, I think it's really just an excuse to keep connection. And that's what you have to break. What's one tip that you can share to heal and love after toxic partnership?
Well, I'll relate one with that, but I'll add on that I have that on my list as well. And it's for so many reasons, though, that you don't need the closure. It really is an excuse. It's either keeping you attached to them or it's keeping you in your own victim cycle. We want to be that victim so much, but like you said, it does take two. Even 9 years of me being with this narcissist, we're like, I wanted to prove for so long to people, look how bad he is, look how bad he is, and look at this list, and da 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 da. And part of my healing was accountability. So there's also that, is taking accountability, because then you empower yourself and you take ownership. I'll tell you one thing, if you are not taking accountability, you are for sure going to go repeat that same relationship over and over, because there is a part of you. You know, maybe he did 500 things wrong and I did a million things right, but I still did this much wrong. There's some, or quote unquote wrong, whatever it was, because we all still get stuck in our crap. We're all in some sort of trigger at some time or some kind of trauma. I could look back and say, you know what? I was a really bad communicator. I really was, because now I've worked on it, but at the time when I would get overwhelmed, I go into pure shutdown, like fight, flight, freeze, appease. I'm like all the things. I'm like totally stone cold, or I'm like running away. Like I was all the things. I couldn't sit there and communicate. And he would always be like, how do we have a conversation? And I would always be like, well, you made me do it. And I look back again, if I was able to sit there and communicate
that's blaming. That's blaming instead of accountability, right?
Right. But I'll tell you, but here's the other thing too, because I think that a lot of the things sometimes seem confusing, where it's like, oh, are you telling me I did it wrong, or I should have stayed, and it's no, because if I sat there and I was the best communicator in the world, and maybe we would have had a better argument, maybe we would have understood each other. At the end of the day, it was the most toxic thing ever. So of course I had to leave. However, maybe there would have been more clarity or less fighting, whatever, it doesn't matter. But it's the accountability on my end, so I could look at that and go, gosh, what happens when I'm triggered? Again, I look at how I have a breakdown. I have a thing, my major things are walk away or hang up the phone. And it's not just with my ex-husband, I do with anyone. Like my sister could tell you, I've hung up on her probably 1,000 times. And she goes, Tracy, that to me also triggers me. I feel abandoned when you do that. I'm just an overwhelm, like I'm gonna have a panic attack, but I'm not thinking, what am I doing to the other person? So just have an accountability where you can list, okay, I actually did these things, and how could I change? And then if you put it back to the closure, you don't need them to take accountability. It's not for you to hear, it's for them. Because when they do, also, is that going to make it better? We think it is, but it really isn't. Even if it was like, okay, I did cheat on you, and you're like, I needed to hear you say that. But then after that, then it's going to be like, but why? Wasn't I good? Then you're going to start, then it's a new thing. Can I have new closure on that? And then there's probably going to be some more blame and some more spiraling. It's also forgiveness. I think forgiveness is really hard for people to understand. And this for me has been a journey in myself first before I could even teach it, was understanding what forgiveness is. Me and my sister have a
Mm-hmm.
phrase. You listen to us on anything, you'll hear it. We say it a million times, which is resentment is drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. Because when you're holding on to the thing for them, you feel like crap in your body. It's overcoming all your thoughts. You can't do anything. You might even feel sick to your stomach all the time, whatever it is. And they're going on with their life probably, and you're just holding on. Forgiveness is for you. It doesn't let them off the hook. Again, I could forgive him for all the things because what it does is free up space in my body. That's a lot of my work I do when I do somatic body work. You actually feel this feeling of space in your body where it's like, oh my gosh, I could breathe. Oh my gosh, now I could pull in more love. Now I could pull in a new partner. I could pull in more life experience. But the forgiveness just says, it's more of an acceptance. Look, this happened. You did this. I don't need closure from you. I don't need you to tell me anything. I'm going to work on me. I'm going to do it for me. And you can actually forgive people what forgiveness feels like. But we get so stuck. And I used to be one that never forgave. I held on to that resentment because I thought that if I held on to it, they would see that they did wrong, or they would see that they hurt me. I'd be like, if my ex could see how sad I am or how mad I am, he's going to come make it better. He's going to come make it better. He's going to come up and he's going to hug me. And I'm so sorry, Tracy. And all that did was seeing me so upset was like push him away more. He's like, oh God, why do I don't want to go over there. Like that looks like the danger zone.
Oh my God. It's like, first of all, really, really honor you for sharing that behavior. And we all do. I mean, maybe not, maybe it's just you and me. When there's not everybody, has things that they've done or they've tolerated. You said so many things in there. And one of the things that I want to highlight, you talked about being accountable. I'm just going to reverse that to a tip is don't blame yourself. Okay. There's a difference from being accountable and blaming self, because along with that blame, there's that shame. And oftentimes if you're in the position where you're being responsible for someone else's bad behavior, like, what did I do? It must have been me. That's simply fueling this negative self-talk. And if you believe that every partner leaves or treats you badly because you did something, that's a really dangerous place to be. I think it's important to take note. You were talking about that. Like, it's almost like when you leave, you're journaling. I know that you journal. Journaling is very, very healthy. It's really a great practice as well to get rid of some of your emotions. But I find that a lot of people do blame themselves when a partner cheats, when a partner hits them. Like, when I was first abused, if you are listened to the earlier part, there was something that came into me that's like, what did I really look at that guy? Now, all of a sudden, I'm thinking maybe it was me. And guess what I did because I got in trouble or I blamed myself, my behavior started to reflect like, oh, I must, wear different kinds of clothes. I can't show my body in a certain way. I better not look attractive because that's going to draw attention and that's not going to make him feel comfortable. So I started conforming and changing and playing small because that blame really impacted my behavior. We're talking about self-love and we're talking about healing. I don't know anybody who loves themselves that wants to play small. When you love yourself and you think of yourself in the context of a gift, you are a giver. You are meant to be here in this world for people to receive whatever it is that you have. And I know there's people in my life now that I surround myself with. And that's my last tip before I pass it over to you as well, is to surround yourself with those positive people. Surround yourself for people that will acknowledge you. Girl, you are slaying. Man, you are a queen. Oh my God, how do you handle this? How do you do life? And how do you do business? How do you, how did you do X, Y, Z? And they're acknowledging you versus being around misery loves company. And I remember being around people who were paycheck to paycheck. They always had a shitty relationship. They always felt bad about themselves. And guess what? I participated in that conversation. And I see all these memes all the time, like enlightened people, small people, or I want to forget what it was, but small people or negative people talk about people, whereas confident people talk about, progress. They talk about action. They talk about future. They're not sitting here gossiping about, well, Mary can't, feed her kids or whatever the case is. If Mary couldn't feed her kids, guess what? I'd be sitting down with Mary, coming up with an action plan. That's the difference. I'm not going to accept that, right? All right, Mary, how are we doing this? Anyway, I'm going to pass it back to you.
I love that. Yes. I mean, it really is true. And they say it's like the 5 people that are closest to you are the biggest reflections of you. And you always want them to be a level above you, or at least where you are in the same mindset. So I 100% agree with that. I want to touch back to like the shame piece, which I was going to also comment on, which I think is so big. If we hold on to shame, guilt, even regret, again, that just goes back to the victimhood. And all of this circles back together, because then when you're in the victimhood, then you're also in the space that you were just talking about, probably surrounded by those same people and whatever. When we sit there just going like, why me, why me, why me? Again, you're not being accountable either. There's always a lesson there. Is it great sometimes that we have to go through abuse, physical abuse and verbal abuse and whatever, to learn a lesson? No, but that is just sort of the way of the universe. This is what it is to be a human being. We go through the trauma, we learn, we heal, we move on, we expand. And that comes from knowing, again, that we deserve better. We get to have more. And it's just sort of the process. And I think a major part of self-love piece is just the allowance of all the things. And so a piece about the shame that I think is really important, this actually came up for me last week. When you can own your shame, that is actually when you release it, or else the shame owns you. So if you hold on to forever that, your example, like if it was like now, if you were still holding on to, I played small, you wouldn't be who you are right now. And now your energy takes up the whole room. You come in and like people just feel it. That is me too. I used to be so tight in a box, and I'd always think I'm too much. And now I own that. When somebody tells me I'm too much, I'm like, hell yes, I am. And if you have a problem with that, there isn't enough room in this room with me, because my energy is this big. But the people who are your people, they're like, oh yeah, and I want to take up more space now because of you.
So, Trace,
Yeah.
let me show you. I have a tattoo and it says I'm too much.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's on my ankle. It's dedicated to someone. I want to say hello to Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Carmelia. Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
Hi. And I invited Rachel up to speak as well. If there's anybody that would like to come, Brian, you've always been a supporter. Is this a topic that you have a question about, or something you might like to share?
Yeah, sure. Because I'll contribute on any topic. I have not been in a romantic relationship, but I can speak from this from a perspective of the trials and tribulations of some sorts that I've been through in my life, and you know, I'm a man who has autism, and I went through time trauma, especially in elementary and middle school. Uh, I was made fun of. Uh, the R word was used on me, even gay slurs, and I'm just an ally for LGBT, but uh, but those were used on me at times, and and so I've so I know what it's like to feel like there's nobody supporting you, and 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 like even now as an adult, I still have challenges with friendships, and even challenges of some sorts with my parents, with how I want to live my life, and so I spend a lot of time seemingly by myself, but really talking with people through my phone or when I go to events and stuff. And so those things are have helped me to heal and love myself. Um, of course, Clubhouse has played a big part, and and so has prayer and local and virtual community, and and so you know I'm I feel confident and. I, whether or not it's romantic or not, I just want to spread love to everyone, and I don't mind having females as just friends, um, and that's how I feel about things. So, thank you for having me, and sending love to anyone who needs it or will accept.
Oh, Carmelia.
Thank you. Oh, I said thank you. Sorry. I realized I was on mute. I was hearing a tiny bit of feedback, so I went on mute. No, thanks, Brian. You talked about an important tip as well in that you are spending, I think people need to be comfortable and should be comfortable with spending time with themselves and not attach the word lonely, because guess what? I have felt lonely in a crowd of people. I have felt lonely sleeping beside a partner. I have felt lonely, hugging my kids sometimes if because it's what's going on in me. And a tip to healing and self-love is being okay with your own company, is taking the time to practice self-care. So I do want to pass it to Tracy to ask, what are the things that you do for your self-care?
Well, first I want to add in really quick though too. Thank you, Brian, for sharing. And two things that you said though I think are huge. The community, which is something on my list too, finding that support system of people, first of all, but you want to be discerning, because we don't want to go back to the victim mentality, because there's two groups of people that you're going to find out there. One is the group that just went through what you went through and they want to keep you down there with them. Let's complain about it and let's gossip about it and let's woe is me about it, and then you'll stay down there forever. But if you find the ones, that want to be on that growth path with you and that are just loving and supportive, as you said, that really is everything. As far as being alone, I never felt as alone as I did in my marriage with my husband, when I was literally with somebody every single day of my life. And alone is just really you being disconnected from yourself. When we are connected to ourselves, which means we're in our highest worth and we are in our deep self-love, we actually don't feel lonely. Lonely, again, is not about the physical space. It's really just about that connection with self and source and whatever you want to call it. So my journey in self-love, especially after my divorce, and even part of what my self-care practice would be, was putting myself in a space to actually be alone and see how that felt. And surprisingly, it felt better than I could have imagined. I've always lived with a roommate or a partner, and then 9 years with the same man and all my kids. I have 3 kids. And so I was really nervous. I remember the first night that he was moving out, and I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be lonely? Am I going to be scared? Like really questioning how I was going to feel. And in all honesty, I felt amazing. Like instantly there was a freedom. There felt like space, just energetically, even there felt like space. And it was really healing for me to just start to get curious about what it felt like to be on my own and to sit with my thoughts. A lot of us have a very hard time sitting with our thoughts. That's a big thing to healing. Can you just sit in a space with yourself? Because that is when the things start to come up, when you start to maybe go into the shame, or you go into guilt, or maybe you go into trauma and you're remembering things. Sometimes we don't want to do that. We don't want to have to sit there and relive the thing. But again, that's where the healing is. So being able to be in that space and be alone, that's actually also how you're able to call in your next partner when you're ready. Because if you can be fine to be on your own anywhere, anytime, you could go to that party alone, you can go on the vacation alone, you could sit on the couch alone. When you don't need anybody, that's when you get to have them, because you're not coming in this codependency, clingy, needy. It's like, ooh, I love that word. I desire your company. I desire, your presence or whatever, but I don't need that at all. And I even just had this conversation with my sister in one of the rooms we were doing, and I was laughing that I was on FaceTime with my boyfriend that lives far away, and I was trying to open something with pliers, and he's like watching me, laughing at me, and he's like joking like, oh, well, you need a man to be there, ha ha ha. And for a second I got a little triggery, and I was like, I don't need a man, I don't need you, I got these pliers. Like, I'm literally like white knuckling him, like, I will get it. And then we both started laughing, and he's like, look, I know you don't need me. He's like, but I would like to help you. And then I started laughing, and I thought of that example. I was like, wow, look at the difference. Before, I always thought I needed the man to do that, or needed somebody there, so I'm not, I just needed because I wasn't there for myself. And the more self-love I'm in, I'm like, oh, I could do it myself. I could figure it out myself. I'm fine. But yeah, it would be nice to have the help. I can do that, but it's a totally different space when you're not in that codependent, needy space. And I think that's a huge part of self-love, and a huge part of healing is to be okay with all of that. And again, that's how you get to move on to the next phase, is to be okay to just be okay in yourself.
Yeah. I speaking of which, I met Tracy. I'm in Toronto, Canada, and I met Tracy when I went to California. I'm like, we have to meet. So we met for coffee, and she's like, you guys got to follow her on Instagram. She's the epitome of fitness. And I remember when we first met, she was going through, what was that? 7 Hard? What was it that you were doing?
5 Hard.
75 Hard. And man, is it ever hard. I've never completed 75 Hard yet. And a tip for how to heal and love yourself is, of course, making you a priority, making your health a top priority, because with that, health is wealth. First of all, health, I'm not the one who should probably be talking about this, but I will say, before my 50th birthday this year, I made a real intention, because I had neglected my health. I had neglected my sleep. I had neglected my exercise. And I know that outwardly, I knew how to dress it up. I know how to make myself look good, but I didn't feel good. And I also wasn't taking care of my body. My internal dialogue was, you don't love yourself. Why would you not take care of the vessel that is meant to protect you, to have you go places, to have the strength and energy to be with your children? I have a 6-year-old. Like, I have to run around and play and ride her in my bike. And so health is super important. I have to say, when I focused on my health, it really made a difference in my mental clarity. And I remember when I was speaking with you, Tracy, as hard as it was, you were just on it, and you were like, I got this, and I love this. And it was, talk to me about that, and why you think health is so important, and how does it help with one's healing journey in reality?
So many things in there, and so many things that you just touched on. I mean, first of all, even when you talk about disease, they say disease is dis-ease in the body. So your body holds all the symptoms of everything going on. So even when you just ignore certain things, it is a reflection of what's happening, which, this might be gross, but I'm saying it anyways. Last summer, when I was starting the major divorce process, I had this rash in my armpit. I thought I cut my armpit shaving, and then I was like, oh, maybe it's just razor burn. Long story short, it was 2 months that I had a rash on my armpit. And one day my armpit was burning, and I'm just going through my life. I'm working out. We're in Southern California. It's 95. It's chafing. It's hot. I'm sweating. I look at my arm, and my nanny, who's there helping with my kids, she's like, Tracy, what is going on? I mean, it literally it was bad. Sorry for being gross.
No, but so what did you find out?
Well, I just realized that I'd had it for 2 months, and I didn't do anything about it. I wasn't trying to take care of myself. I kept trying to push through. And that's a little silly example, but to me, the little things show everything, because it really showed a reflection of where I was in my life on all aspects. And so I kind of went over what I was going on and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I realized I'd started using this new deodorant, and I looked on it, and it was never use it after shaving. So for 2 months, every time I shaved, I put on this freaking deodorant. And then again, the heat, the sweat, whatever. I didn't use deodorant for a week and it went away. But my point was, and that's how simple it was burning. It was painful. It was rubbing on me. And that is such a metaphor, right? Because my body was screaming at me, Tracy, like something is wrong. You don't feel good. This is hurting. And I was just so caught up in like trying to go on with my day to day because I didn't want to stop and deal. I didn't want to deal with the divorce. I didn't want to deal with my kids. I didn't want to deal with the pain. I was like, go, go, go. And I was like, wow, what a mirror into, taking care of yourself. And so, yeah, so the body for me, even when I first started getting into fitness, I went from having an eating disorder like my whole life and always trying to be so skinny and whatever, to then wanting to be strong and to wanting to be healthy. And I stopped going to the gym to lose weight and to put on muscle. Because every time I lifted a weight and I went up higher and higher in my weight, I felt stronger, not in my body, but just in my mindset, in my soul. I'm like, I'm getting stronger. I'm getting stronger. So I actually get up at 3:45 every morning. This started from the 75 hard, which I don't do anymore. But now that I started the routine, so I get my workout in. So I have enough time to do the things that I need to do. It's grounding for me. Moving your body actually somatically helps you move energy through your body. There's so many things. But I will tell you, if you are a person that does struggle, and this might be triggering to hear, and I want to say I apologize for that, but I don't, because tough love, like this could be for you. If you are struggling with your weight, if you are overweight, any of the things, there is a part of you that is using food or using lack of exercise or whatever to numb something out. That's what we all do. Or if you're someone also who was me, who wasn't eating and no matter what, when we are taking it out on our bodies, it really is a reflection of where we are in life. When you're loving yourself the most, you can get up at 3:45 in the morning. You can say no to a cupcake. You can say yes to a salad, whatever it is, because it matters to you. It's not about being, superficial or materialistic. It's just how good you personally feel. It's like, why wouldn't I want to feel better when you're loving yourself that much? So I think that is really, really huge.
Yeah, I love that. And I am forever going to look at every potential toxic partner and toxic partner as a deodorant stick.
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally like, oh my God, you are some bad deodorant. Get the hell out of my face.
Let me
It's
read
so
that label
great.
closer first. No dates.
Oh my God. Hey, is Kara on stage? Kara, are you with us?
Hey, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Are we going to see your beautiful face, or are you just joining us by voice? And I want to acknowledge Rachel too. Kara, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. I'm the Style Goddess. I'm currently in Washington, D.C. I was in Miami yesterday, and that's why I don't want to show my face because I got really bad sunburn.
Oh,
I look a little crazy. So, yeah, it's starting to peel now. So I'm like, no, we're not doing camera today. But anyways,
yeah. Have you had your run-in with toxic partnerships or relationships in the past?
of course, I have to say both of my ex-husbands, I laid them off. So that's how that went. But in my adult I was married in my 20s, basically from 20 to 30. And then I didn't really start dating until I was in my 30s. And so it was kind of a new thing because now I'm a young mom still. I have kids that are like entering teenage and, adulthood-ish. And so navigating that whole thing was interesting. And so a lot of the guys that I've known them for years, like 10, 20, 30 even years. And so I find that I kind of recycle people sometimes. And as long as how we ended off wasn't terrible, then I might invite you back, to see if you changed or anything's different.
You take them off the shelf and check it out again, right? You read that book again.
You dust them off a little bit and see what's going on. And so then recently, one of the ones that I'd been kind of talking to for a couple of years, we were sort of trying to navigate and figure some things out. He had a lot of stuff going on, and it was like he really needed to deal with himself because I'm over here, Miss Sunshine and, rainbows, and he's like the little cloud walking around, and there's nothing I could do to help that. Like he had to work on himself. So he had to go, and I was sad, but I let him go. And then it was funny. One of the other ones that I had let go a while ago, cause he was having some issues. He's worked on his issues and he's coming back, and now he's like consistent and he's checking in on me every day. And everybody's like, ooh, Team Will. And I'm like, hey,
That's
just
so
relax.
great.
Just relax. We're just going to see how it goes. But what I did after the other one, we stopped talking, I started really doing affirmations for myself. Like, if it's not a hell yes, it's a fuck no. Like, all of that. Like, I'm the shit. I'm the one, whatever. And then just also saying, you know what? Every man, I'm loved by them, cherished, spoiled, whatever. Like, just saying those. And everywhere I go, men cater to me, even if it's just opening the door or giving me a free this or that, whatever. Like, we had the best time in Miami. Men took care of us the whole time. It was amazing. So,
Where was my invite, girlfriend? I want to be part of that like generosity train, the free everything train. Let's do it.
you know what I'm saying? I said we got to make a plan for that because I was there in September last year, and it's still pretty good. It's not burning hot like it is right now. I mean, it is hot down there right now. So
It's hot.
September would probably be a better time to go, honestly.
Well, thank
So,
you.
but
And
yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
Kara and I have collaborated. She's she's worked with celebrities in style. She's got great style herself. You could, guys, please check her out. She's been in many times a guest on Matchmaker Monday, helping with style. And thank you for coming, Kara. I do want to acknowledge Rachel as well. Rachel, are you here to do video or can you chat? Are you coming in to ask a question or contribute?
Oh, thank you so much, Carmelia. I appreciate you. I went ahead. I'm actually driving, so I won't be able to come on. However, I'm happy to contribute if I can. I have experience with everything you're saying, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Tracy, what do you think of, context is so important. And I think a great tip, and I've had to do this many times in my life, is rather than consider yourself or call yourself a victim, you are a survivor. Because when you say you're a victim and think of yourself as a victim, it almost feels like you what does a victim do versus a survivor does? What are the traits of a victim? What's the mindset of a victim versus the mindset of a survivor? What do you think about that, and how do you coach people through that mentality?
Yeah, I think that is huge. Again, for me, I'll say personally, I have had so many crazy things happen in my life. I shared recently, I think when you were on with me and my sister, that my mom committed suicide when I was 18. And so for me, I had a lot of years spiraling in victimhood. And then I suddenly had this light bulb go off. So for me, I am just not a stand for that. Like anyone around me knows, I am the first person we don't do victims here. It only keeps you stuck in your shit. It just really does. And again, there's accountability. I mean, it's not like I have to take accountability for what my mom did, but was me just having a realization that's like the accountability I could take is I'm here to live my life to the fullest. And I'm here to not let anything stop me. And I get to have all that I want once I realize I can. So that's what's there for everyone, is there is a lesson in all of it. There is growth in all of it. And if you could see that even just a tiny bit, and I always tell my clients too, like maybe you can't really see it. Maybe you can't really see the silver lining right now, but are you willing to? And I always start with that. Can I get you to get 1% willingness, which means maybe you're slightly willing to shift perspective just a tiny bit, and then a little more and a little more and a little more, until all of a sudden you see the bigger picture. Because out of all of this, yes, we are survivors, and that is what empowers us. Like, I survived that. I mean, I think there's so many memes that go around and see that. It's like when you have that moment, again, you're in that like fight, flight, freeze, appease. You're like, oh my God, the world's coming down on me. Your nervous system's like shut down, and you're like, I'm gonna die. Like, you have that fear that comes over you, whatever the thing is that you're afraid of, and your body just goes into like, I'm gonna die zone. And you have that moment where you go, but wait, I've felt like this how many other times in life? And I have survived every time. I'm standing here right now. So that, to me, if you can have that willingness to see that, that's going to change everything for you. Because again, if not, you could be stuck in that victim hole forever. And you do see people that had a bad marriage or a bad breakup, whatever. And it's like, oh, have you been dating? No, I've never dated again. 30 years later, it's like, I just decided not to. For me, I had this crazy marriage. I had a really bad breakup. I'm still in and out sometimes with the ex, but I dove right into my healing work. Again, there was no excuses for me. I was just all in for it. And then a year later, I find myself out of the blue in the craziest situation of a relationship, feeling a love for a person I've never experienced in my life that I didn't really even feel like existed. But I know it all started from me loving and accepting myself out of that marriage. And again, I wouldn't be here now though if I was stuck in the victimhood. And I think it's common for someone a year later to still be in that victim-y place. But everything is a choice. It's a choice. That's what I tell every client, no matter if we're talking about relationships and love or just other parts of life. Even like money, we want to think like, oh, well, I got laid off, or oh, I don't have this education somebody else has, or whatever. No matter what, if you look that you have a choice, there's always a way out. There's always a way to expand, to grow, to go bigger, to go better, if you decide.
Yeah.
And that's
I think what I'm hearing from you as well, and sometimes a question that has been asked of me and a question that I've asked of others is, what do you need to let go of, right? And not to allow that relationship to define you. Because labels are really, really, again, the label of a victim versus a label of a survivor, or not being good enough, or being defined by that relationship. We all have a story, but that does not have to be your story. That your story is a failed marriage. Your story is you learned how to love yourself. You learned about what you require. You learned to establish really good boundaries. So it's really important that you consider, what is it time to let go of, right? And what did you learn in that relationship? And the letting go and what you need. I think that's so, so important. Why, Tracy, do you think, and I'm just going to ask this to you, I ask this of myself a lot, but why is it so challenging for some people to let go? Why do they just want to hold on to the hurt and the past, and they're constantly looking in the rearview mirror?
Well, that one can spiral us into a whole nother episode, but I'll give a short answer of that.
Maybe that'll be our next episode. Yeah, for sure.
So first of all, again, we're holding on. It's all coming from a childhood trauma. That's always what's playing out, even if we aren't fully aware of it in the moment. So a lot of times that thing, and we have talked about this too, it's familiar. This boyfriend that's treating you so shitty and even actually physically abusing you, but it's giving you a sense inside that's felt familiar to something in your childhood. So even though it seems to other people like familiar, like that's good, in a way it is calming to your body, because your body goes, oh, I know what this feels like. Again, sounds crazy, but you don't know what a nice, calm relationship feels like. So our body always is going towards safety. Well, this thing that actually isn't safe, but is familiar, does feel safe in a way. And you get stuck in that pattern. You get trapped. And I've only been used to that because I grew up in a chaotic, yelling, emotionally abusive household. Again, I married my dad. Funny now with my partner now is just a lot more like laid back, just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. He's just like earthy. He's like nature. He's like whatever. And every once in a while, I'll get a little feisty for no reason, because I will just be in, we all get into triggers. We get stuck in it. No matter how healed you are, you're going to get stuck in it. And he'll call me out and just be like, are you trying to start a fight with me? And then I get defensive, like, no, I'm not. Like, and like, oh shit, I am. And then he'll like joke, like, do you know how to be with a nice person? And I'll like laugh and I'll go, honestly, dude, I don't. You know what? I don't. And, it goes from being a joke to being serious. And I'll be like, and thank you for saying that to me, because you kind of like made me laugh and wake me up a little bit. But I don't actually know how to be with a nice, kind. Even some of my friends have been like, I have friends that always want to abandon. They don't show up. They don't, like we make plans and they don't whatever, because I'm used to that. So all of that is new for me. But to have a person that's like, when he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And I'm not used to that. Wow, you have integrity with your word. Not yelling at me. You're not putting me down. You've never said a bad word to me. That should be great. But there's a little part on the inside, and this is just all how we work in our wounding, that goes, it's great, but it feels weird. It feels a little bit unsafe. We don't know what this is like. I know the outcome of all those crazy ones. Even though it's bad outcome, I know it. So that feels safe. I don't know the outcome of this. Also, there's the part that's like, I'm in my self-worth enough to know I drew in this relationship. But also, again, there's that little old part of me that goes, what if I don't deserve this? What if I don't actually deserve this? So I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, ooh, maybe it's too good. So why do we stay in those things sometimes is because of that, because we think we need to be in the chaos. We think we need to that thing that's familiar. And so again, it just comes back to that awareness. Can I see what I'm doing? Can I come and tune into a place where I say, I deserve more than this? I get to have better. Can I love myself just a little bit more today? Every day, if you could do just a little, even it's like, okay, I'd like to do fitness, like you said, but I don't know if I'm going to go to the gym. Maybe you just walked around the block today. I always am listening to something. I'm watching TV all the time. I can't be alone. I can't be by myself. I can't have thoughts. But today I'm going to sit with myself for 5 minutes, just 5 in silence, and see what comes up. We can do a little thing each day, and it's almost like building that self-love muscle, and then you get to a place where you become so aware that's like, oh, okay, here I am. And what's the next step?
I love that. And, even when Kara shared that, she had been in toxic, she can label it. She knows that she's felt it. And yet a person came back. I do believe that people can come back into your lives, operative words, when they've done the work. And there's a difference from saying they've done the work and actually doing the work. But in this instance, she also talked about the behavior. The behavior is different. There's consistency there. Whereas in the past, it wasn't consistency. When people haven't truly invested in their self-help and healing, over time, that mask, it falls. There's cracks in their personality. And that's when you really, especially if you're giving somebody a second chance, maybe third. I think this 3 strikes, you're out, and they start to just be inconsistent with their word. Really, really be strong with your boundaries. Kara, is there anything you want to say in addition to that before we wrap? Because I want Tracy to talk about her offer of Return to Love, and I'm going to share with people how they can get a hold of me.
Yeah, sure. Like,
Yeah.
boundaries thing is huge because I grew up in a household kind of similar to Tracy's as well. It was like crazy. Okay, crazy. And so the fact that none of me and my siblings are, in mental institutions is a testament to all of our, doing the work or
I
whatever.
got to clap for that.
So, but I didn't really get to learn boundaries until I was really in the last couple of years to really learn strong boundaries. I was working with a couple of different coaches and really started seeing how the boundaries that I didn't have with my dad was why the men in my life weren't responding to my boundaries, or when I didn't keep my own boundary. Like if I said, if this person does this and such, and then I'm not going to deal with them anymore. And if I did it anyway, I was crossing my own boundaries. So why wouldn't they cross the boundary? You know what I mean? So learning those boundaries and what I wanted to have in my life and not have in my life. And, learning to really care about me first. I'm the most important person in my life. And I got off the I don't give a fuck bus a long time ago at this point. So there's not too much anybody can do or say to me that I'm going to be like, oh, okay, whatever, you don't pay my bills. I'm not really affected by that, whatever you do and say. So I can go on my way. And I think that irritates people, but it is what it is. I'm the most important person in my life. So that's what I chose.
Yeah, I think it's self-love is not selfish. And I think that it's okay. It is totally okay to be a little selfish. And in fact, I think it's important to be selfish after a toxic partnership, not to other people and now be not be yourself or not be kind or not be those things, but just in the fact of honoring your time and of course taking that time for healing. So we are just about to wrap up. This flew by so quickly. Tracy, what is something that you're offering to your community and to people right now that you're helping them with?
Right. So right now, my sister and I, she's also a coach, we are doing a program called Return to Love. And essentially, it's kind of all the things we've been talking about. It's first of all, bringing the awareness that you get to have that partner. You get to call him or her in exactly how you want them to be once you know what you deserve and get really clear. Your boundaries, what you're looking for, what you're not looking for, and all starting with the focus on yourself, loving yourself the most and the fullest. So in that wholeness, you call that person in, because when we are not in our wholeness, when we do that whole other half syndrome thing, then you're in that conditional space. If you don't do the thing I need, I'm not going to feel love. So our whole purpose of the program is, again, Return to Love is the return to love of yourself, to then be able to turn that around to call in the partner. And like Kara said, to be that magnet. Like when you're walking around and all the guys are looking at you, it's because you're in your wholeness. We're owning our shit and loving ourselves. You are a magnet. Men, women, everyone's looking at you. It's like, ooh, what is that energy? Like you don't have to say a word. They're like, it's like a magnet to you. So that's kind of the point of the program. Become that magnet.
I love that. And you have specific enrollment. I believe they can go to your Instagram and click on the link in your bio, which will point you to her services. Definitely check that out. For me, same. I'm committed to helping people once they've done the work. So once you did that work, or if you've done it, you can reach out to me. I do have a database, and I work with clients and helping them find and attract their partner. And, you know, Kara's an audience member, but she came in as a guest. You can check her out as well. She's the style goddess. And man, does she know her stuff. Collaborated with her many times. This was our first show of Love and Healing, and we will be back. If you have show ideas, please let us know. If this was of value to you, please share it out. We will be back. And with that, we're going to say bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Rachel, Kara, and everybody else.
Ciao.
Ciao.
I'm gonna send you a picture of the guy that came back too, so you can